Welcome to our Purple Belt level program. Here we are transitioning from hope to what we call the confident operator. So we're just a little bit over halfway through our journey, and up to now, you've learned really just the foundational skills from our white belt, yellow belt, orange belt, green belt, and blue belt. So let's jump in and talk about what exactly is a confident operator. By this point, you should be thinking to yourself, or you will be thinking to yourself, ChatGPT is helping, but how far can I take it? And this is actually a fun stage because we're doing a little bit more experimenting. We're getting into the actual workflows and we're starting to see some true value. So for our insights here, the highest value use of ChatGPT is in identifying and managing those recurring integrated workflows. For clarity, we want to identify the bottlenecks that are costing you hours every week, and we're going to build systems to eliminate, automate, or delegate. So you've probably heard these phrases before, you're going to hear them again. Here we are actually tackling the bigger bottlenecks, and you've got the confidence. So you're going to go and play, and you're going to find ways to eliminate, automate, delegate anything that's slowing you down in your business. And for growth, once we've got that insight and clarity, we want to achieve true leverage by letting the script do the work while we focus on strategy. And what I mean by that is, again, we're the adult in the room. It's up to us to review and approve and agree to things. But by now, you should be comfortable knowing you can build a detailed standard operating procedure with your AI, and you can allow that AI to run. So in this level, we're starting to get into the actual use of custom GPTs. And in our weekly meetings, we will be playing with members of the Catalyst crew. Those are the custom GPTs I created. And you'll be able to see what is possible with a well-trained custom GPT. In later levels, we will teach you how to actually build your own. So again, we want to build confidence by showing you what they can do. And then once you understand what they can do, then we show you how to build them. And then you can really unlock a lot of potential with your own custom GPTs. And don't worry about the terminology yet. A custom GPT is just a version of ChatGPT trained to be a specialist in one thing, and that's the one thing it does. Early in my days, and this is one of those chasing squirrels sort of scenario, I built a lot of generalist custom GPTs, and to be honest, they were more specialized than the main ChatGPT, but the more general they were, the less positive the results were, the less spectacular they were. So what I learned early on, and sadly, I think a lot of business owners and entrepreneurs could learn this again, being a specialist at one thing or a couple of things, you will always outperform a generalist who is expert of all, master of none. So our custom GPTs, each one is a specialist in one area of business. I don't want to overwhelm anyone, but personally, I have approximately 400. And the reason I have that many is because I have a lot of different interests and hobbies. So some are for hobbies, some are for business, but each one is an expert at one thing. Just to give you an example, I have one that is an expert at helping me outline a book if I'm going to write it. I share my ideas, my thoughts. It helps me organize them and come up with the right outline. And then I have different ones to help me turn different parts of that outline into a book. So I co-create with ChatGPT all the time, and I can't wait for you to get there, because once you start to see where the tool can give you the most leverage, it really frees up your time. And by the way, I have one that takes the transcripts from these courses that I do and turns them into notes, workbooks, journals, you name it. So we'll get into that, but I just want you to know what I look at is, in business, we have systems. Systems perform some area of the business they consistently, and within a system we have individual processes that build together to give us our desired outputs. So when I say system overall, I'm sometimes referring to the entire business, or maybe, for example, I'm talking about the accounting department. And then in the accounting department, we might have a payables or a receivables process. So system is the high level, and then we get into the detailed processes. So at this point, by the end of your purple belt, you should be recognizing that your job is strategy, and ChatGPT should be handling a lot of the execution, and you want to make things real. So for the purple belt, this is the pivotal stage where the operator becomes the architect of their own internal ChatGPT system. And I'll show you how I manage mine in our courses. Basically, I use Google Sheets for a lot of things, Google Docs for everything else. But the purple belt is where you, as the student, graduates from using prompting chains, multi-step prompt chains, to building a single branded tool, your Custom GPT, that executes the entire workflow. And by the way, this is where the results get phenomenal. You've gone from really narrow or broad experimentation to really narrow implementation at a highly strategic level. This is highly leveraged work. So some of our core objectives here with Insight, we want you to see that systematization, by the way, some people say systemization. I tend to say that, but sometimes I type systematization, old habit. But it is the bridge between personal skill and repeatable leverage. So I want you to remember something we've talked about before, and I want to bring it up again. We are using your current skill set to optimize parts of your business that you're already an expert in. So by now, you should be getting comfortable with the eliminate, automate, delegate mantra. And we're going to optimize areas where you are 100% confident you know what a good outcome looks like, so that we can build repeatable leverage. And again, for this one, we're going to pick something that you've probably dealt with before. You've been working on it from probably green belt on. And the reason I say that is we want to leverage your areas of confidence and your personal zone of genius, because that's where you're going to get the most leverage from a custom GPT. And here under clarity, we're going to define non-negotiable brand standards for your ChatGPT output, so that, quite frankly, ChatGPT creates things that feel like things you've created. So we'll talk a little bit about some ways to embed your branding, and maybe that's even just your voice and your tone, but we'll build it right into your own custom GPT. And for growth, we want to establish an unbreakable rhythm of high quality, on brand ChatGPT output. And by the way, by this point, you should be really confident that ChatGPT can solve some of your business problems. If you're still hesitant, maybe go back to the earlier work you did in the green and the blue belt, just until you're really confident in where you're at today. So as always, we start with our mindset badge. So mindset, again, is about belief and awareness. And here we want to build the beliefs that you need to be confident and competent as you move from purple belt up into the next level, which is brown belt. So here our core focus is systemization as the bridge between personal and repeatable leverage. And as an insight, we're going to show you how to adopt what we call the product owner mindset. And here we're going to realize that our prompt libraries are not just a collection of successful prompts. It is truly your proprietary, I call it intellectual property. Most people don't see it that way, but it is your secret ingredients and your secret recipe. So this becomes a proprietary asset that must be maintained, documented, and built for a specific repeatable purpose. And by the way, just as a side note, one of the things I will be building and demonstrating is a belt level specific custom GPT to help each of you at each level of the belts. I will be showing you how I do that so that you can repeat that as well. Now, I won't show all of it because it is my proprietary asset. And unfortunately, in the day and age of Chat GPT, people love to take other people's assets and turn them into their own. I will show you how to build your own assets, but I don't need to show random people out there all of my secrets. But for my digital dojo, you guys get the secrets. So I want you to understand in business, if the value is, so I believe that success in business is based on our overall positive impact on the planet and the revenue return on investment that we generate for the stakeholders. Now, part of that is realizing the absolute maximum exit value when we sell our business. And by the way, I do assume most businesses should sell. I don't believe that just shutting something down is always the best option. I always build on the assumption that we're building an asset that we will sell. And what I've discovered is that businesses that have good systems and processes always outsell, outperform in a sales scenario because people want to buy a business, they don't want to buy a job. Now, interestingly, if we build on that assumption that we're looking to maximize the value on exit, we also end up optimizing the value as we're owning it. So the asset actually produces more value to us while we own it. So if you're not a believer in systems as a way to free you up in your business by now, keep practicing. I promise the rewards are there when you build systems that work. Now, for clarity here, we're going to define the single purpose. And throughout our green belt and blue belt, we've been working on workflows. We're going to pick one. And when I say most valuable use case, this is the one that you believe has the highest impact on freeing up your time and generating revenue in your business. And we're going to pick one, and we're going to turn it into a dedicated, self-branded custom GPT. Now, this is a lazy one. I actually name all of mine like people. That's just the weird quirk of my brain. I remember people, not roles. So you might have the XYZ brand social post writer. I have several. I think Lonnie Linked is my LinkedIn guy. Yeah, I'm not original, but I like to have a name for them. Patricia Parker does personas, things like that. So we're going to take one of your workflows and we're going to turn it into a custom GPT. And this is where you will see significantly better results, more consistent results, and honestly, faster results. So we're really going to focus on one. And as always, I recommend in the purple belt, you stick around, you work on one until you're confident. There is no rush, there is no pressure, it's not a race. And then implement the next and the next. So if you look at your calendar, I guarantee, forget employees, forget team, but as an individual, I guarantee if you're working 40 hours a week, which most people I've met are closer to 60, I guarantee that there's at least 10 custom GPTs in there that could help you get your work done faster. And it is a great problem to have to say, well, how do I fill my day? And one of the things I do, I have what I call my 5x5 daily success habits. Those are 5 things that I do 5 days a week consecutively. And if I do those 5 things, I know with 100% certainty my business will succeed. So what I do is I get those 5 things done every day. And then the rest of the day is 100% optional. And yes, you might think, oh, that sounds lazy. But really, I spend a lot of my quote unquote optional time focusing on strategic partnerships, strategic relationships, and just generally planning the strategy of the business. And then finally, under growth, we're going to talk about the brand guardian. And yes, I have a custom GPT for this. We will document the top 5 rules, how you can capture tone, voice, style, your humor, and target it to your audience. And what we'll do is we'll build this guide document so that your custom GPT will follow it. And this forces you to distill your expertise into non-negotiable instructions. And this is trial and error because I promise you, you speak differently than you think you do. And we want to capture your tone perfectly. The general rule, and again, this is entirely up to you. If you use ChatGPT as a generalist, which is literally it's the general pre-trained transformers, is what GPT stands for. If you use the general ChatGPT, you're going to get an average output, which means it's going to sound pretty much average like everyone else. It is bland, it is boring, it is vanilla. It might look good, but it will, when somebody comes and reads it, they will feel a certain sense of soul missing. They will feel like something's missing. So the goal is to inject a little bit of you into your custom GPT so that everything you produce sounds like you. Now, I promise you are still much needed. You are, number one, the expert at being you, and 2, you are the adult in the conversation. So it's up to you to guide your custom GPT and say, I like this, I don't like that, do more of this, do less of that, so that it sounds more and more like you. Now, for the record, you'll still get some kind of generic results at times. It's up to you to inject enough of you into it to make sure it sounds like you. As an example, I like to give really strange, appropriate metaphors so that people, I use the phrase, I guess the word is simile, not metaphor, because I say it's like this, or I will use a pure metaphor. You want to make sure the metaphors are ones you would actually use. For example, when I first started using when I first using ChatGPT, it gave some really weird metaphors in fields I had no idea even if the metaphor was sound or not. So make it sound like you. Once we've mastered the mindset, and I spend a lot of time on mindset because in my humble opinion, mindset is everything. If you don't develop the right mindset, the skills don't matter. Now, here we're at the skill set badge where we share the tools and techniques. And the core focus here is designing custom GPTs for repeatable on-brand outputs. So the key here, you are going to master the design of custom GPTs. You're going to practice. You'll play with some of mine. You will build to graduate to the next level. You have built and tested and proven one. You can build multiple, but really truly start with one and make sure that one is sound, and then you can move on. So I'll show you some beginner, intermediate, advanced tips for building and optimizing your custom GPT. And one thing, I document my custom GPTs. I treat each one like an experiment. I document what I did. I have version control. When you go into ChatGPT, you can explore and use other people's custom GPTs. I never do because I don't know what's in them. And I'm a strange person. If I don't know what's in them, I don't know if I entirely trust the output. So I'm going to show you how to build your own so that you can trust the output. And more importantly, the output sounds like you, feels like you, it is you, it's on brand. So insight here, we want to understand that the configuration instructions for your custom GPT are really just the ultimate manifestation of the work we did at the Greenbelt, where I taught you some prompt engineering frameworks. We will get a little more advanced, but what I want you to see is there's a natural progression from green belt to blue belt to purple belt. Everything was done with intention so that you're moving forward and you're building the little pieces that you need. Now we're going to assemble all those pieces and see what this puzzle actually looks like. And this was my aha moment when I realized that with a custom GPT, I'm in fact building my system and turning it into software. Now, it's not quite software like you might expect, but if you think about it, all software is just a system, a systematic way of delivering a result consistently over time. So, for example, if you have a CRM and you enter somebody's contact details, you don't see all of the steps behind the scenes where that data gets added to the database and how it gets stored and retrieved. All you know is hit the little search button, search for a person's name, and there it comes. So basically, good systems become great software, and in this case, great custom GPTs. And the magic is when you give this to others, and by the way, you can actually, if you want, make a living just building and selling custom GPTs. And if you get stuck with things, I have people that do that sort of thing. But basically, we're turning our business into systems. And the idea is if we give a good system to our rock stars, they're actually going to be better. So they're actually going to be super rock stars. You know, it's the difference between going from a one-hit wonder to a consistent hit maker. I'll express my age, but basically it's the difference between bands that somebody's heard of and maybe Elvis. Sorry, Elvis is one of my favorites from way back. But basically, we're going to turn our rock stars into bigger rock stars. Now, the magic is we also take our average performing people and we pull them up because they're going to get consistency and they're going to get some actual depth to their skill set. And if you have underperformers, those blessed people who are trying hard, they've got a good attitude, but they just can't get it. This is great because it enforces a lot of the judgment, and it reminds them And basically, with a little bit of training, your lowest performing people can move up. And my goal is always to get the lowest people up to what I consider my current average. And what that does is it moves my entire business forward because everybody is improving. So for clarity, we will start to translate this and build a system. So we're going to take that multi-step workflow with all of the sequential prompts and the human in the loop steps, and we're going to create one single clear set of instructions for the Custom GPT's configuration panel. Now, don't get nervous. This is not coding. This is not programming. This is a large language model, so we're communicating. So if you can read and write English, you can create custom GPTs. The first one is intimidating. By the second or third one, you're going to laugh and go, oh my God, this is so easy. So we have a system. We will teach you that system. But I want you to understand that custom GPTs are highly configurable, highly customized. And if you don't like them, you can test and measure. I joke that I prefer working with custom GPTs to humans because if my custom GPT isn't doing the job well, I can literally retrain them and relaunch them in minutes. Whereas an employee, first of all, you got to deal with the psychology of it. Retraining them, you got to break bad habits and start them over. Custom GPT, you just figure out where the bugs are, the errors in the logic are, and you can reboot quickly. So for growth here, we're going to identify what a minimum viable product, MVP, GPT launch looks like. So here you will successfully create and test one custom GPT, and you're going to ensure it can perform the blue belt level multi-step task, and it adheres to our 80% completion metric without requiring really sequential prompting dialogue. Now, again, this is oversimplified, and I will show you what I mean. What we've done in our blue belt, you should have a detailed process where we have, here's what the employee does, here's what the AI does, and step by step, here's how they communicate. We're just formalizing that in a custom GPT. And one of the ways we do that is we give the custom GPT the exact steps it does, and we give it the questions it needs to ask us in order to get our input. We've followed a process by now. You should remember this. We have our inputs, our process steps, our quality control, our feedback loop, and then our output or our desired deliverable. Our goal is that we're getting at least 80% final. And I say 80% because in the world of delegation, the mantra is you should be able to delegate and expect that your people will only do something at about 80% of what you would do it at that level. So we're going to expect that GPT is like a good employee. It'll get to about 80%. That frees us up to finish the top 20%. Again, it's very quick because we're not building things, we're editing final outputs. And I find a lot of people would rather edit than create. So here we're expecting about 80% done. And then we as the human, the adult in the conversation, we're going to fact check, we're going to trust and verify, and we're going to ensure the output resembles something we would actually put out in the world if we had done it ourselves. And by the way, when you get good at the editing part, this can significantly reduce the hours you spend every day creating things, even if it is one-off systems and so on. Now, once we have the mindset and the skill set, we get into the gear set, and this is the systems and flow. And the core focus here is integrating and using files or actions to enhance GPT intelligence. Now, we're going to mainly focus on files because actions take a little bit of technical know-how, and sometimes it makes people freeze. But I'm going to show you a really basic workflow to build custom GPTs. And I want you to understand, I practice what I preach. So you will see that I have detailed SOPs, standard operating procedures, for everything I do, including creating SOPs. Yes, I have a process for creating processes. And I also have a process for building custom GPTs. And I follow that consistently because I've spent 3 years and about 10,000 hours testing every possible imaginable scenario that I could find. And as I was building them, I actually built a custom GPT that helps me build other custom GPTs. I've been practicing the iron sharpens iron. And so as I go, I use little experiments. I ask my custom GPT how we can improve. And basically, we've tweaked it to the point where I'm happy. And I believe there's diminishing returns in trying to solve more of these problems. So at this point, I'm really happy with my process for creating custom GPTs because I get the results I expect consistently. So for insight, I want you to understand that any tool, its power is limited by its knowledge. So when we're building a custom GPT, the knowledge that we use is critical. So I'm going to again talk about knowledge files and actions. Take a generic LLM, large language model, and turn it into a domain-specific expert. So I'm going to say something judgmental. Forgive me if it offends. But when people come out and say, oh, ChatGPT generates garbage, or, oh, it's just bland, I think the word is, people are saying, oh, GPT slop. Well, here's the thing. If your GPT is generating garbage or slop, you're telling me that you are not a clear thinker. So it is a mirror and it will reflect whatever you are in front of it. So if you are clear, organized, systematic, you will get clear, organized, systematic outputs back. But if you are all over the place and you say, oh, I don't need systems, it's going to give you gibberish and garbage. It's just the way it is. Your questions, your communication skills will determine what you get back from a GPT. So we're going to talk about data integration, and in your custom GPT, you're going to have, and by the way, you build these and you can use them later. Think of it like Lego. You're using the pieces to build something today, but tomorrow you can take that thing apart, figuratively. You're not actually taking it apart, but you can use the parts for other things. So as an example, I have a brand guide, which includes the 5 elements we talked about earlier, one of those being my audience. And basically, I upload that to every custom GPT that is creating something for that specific audience. Now, it gets a little strange, but I actually have a custom GPT that is my brand guide. And I'll show you how to do this. But what it does is it compares outputs. So it's a quality control layer. It doesn't replace me. It enhances me. It compares my brand guide to our outputs, and it gives it a score. Sometimes it's out of 10, sometimes it's a percentage, but it'll give it a score based on how well it meets my brand guide. Now, depending on what else you might need, a historical performance data, I always have a key standard operating procedure, and I generally will have a personality document. Now, there are certain things, if I'm writing fiction, I have a writing style, to be fair, it is um, Tolkien or inspired by C.S. Lewis or J.K. Rowling. It's a little more epic and questy type language, versus if I'm writing for LinkedIn, it's going to be a little bit more professional and to the point. Now, don't judge me, but I also have one. I was inspired by the Canadian comedian Rick Mercer. He used to do a show called The Mercer Report, and at the end of every show, he would do a 2 or 3 minute rant where he would basically state a problem in society, and then he would use his humor to explore solutions and options to it. So I invented or created a custom GPT, and his name is Ranty McRant. So he'll take some random thought I have and he'll turn it into a Rick Mercer style rant. Again, it never gets published until I approve it and I edit it. But basically, I've given it a personality. So we're going to show you how knowledge files will shape your custom GPT and ground its responses in your context. So this is how they actually sound exactly like you want them to. And by the way, this is the difference between drivel that is spewed all over the place and content that is uniquely yours. And by the way, if you have an industry, let's say you're an accountant, your standard operating procedures can be used consistently in your firm, and you can also even teach other accountants how to do it if you're so inclined. But at the end of the day, it helps you train your employees, helps you grow your team, and ultimately the value is you're going to work less, get more done, you're going to have a bigger impact, make more money. So for growth, we're going to practice the quality assurance loop. And here we're going to create a post-processing step in your workflow where every output from the custom GPT is subjected to a final 5-point Q&A checklist, quality assurance checklist before being approved for use. So this is just the final human in the loop. As you'll recall, we have our inputs, our process steps, our quality control, our feedback loop, and our output. We're going to test and measure. We're optimizing as we go, but the final thing is, does this meet our internal quality assurance checklist before being approved for use? Now, this is your checklist as the adult in the conversation. These are the things you're going to check to make sure it is correct before you launch it. Now, I call it a 5-point QA checklist because that's what I use. You are going to customize it for yourself. So basically, my checklist is really, really simple. Does it sound like me? So is that something I would actually say? That's point 1. Point 2, is it correct? So if I am asserting facts, I want to make sure that these facts are correct. Now, I won't get into the other steps, but basically I do a quality check and it's a common sense check. I'm looking to make sure it's on brand. I'm looking to make sure it adds value to my audience. Again, your checklist will be customized to you. So I'll share mine in detail in our courses and in our training. It's up to you to make one that works for you. And like I said, I go a step further. I have a couple of actual custom GPTs. Their entire job is to compare the metrics to the output to make sure that the output is as expected. And by the way, you can actually build some of this into your individual custom GPTs where they will self-assess. in my world, I'm the adult. I need to make sure that it does meet that criteria. If it doesn't ship. By the way, my number one criteria, does this add value to my audience? And if the answer is not a resounding yes, we go back and we fix it. All right, now we're in the community badge. This is where we have a little fun and we play with our colleagues. This is about collaboration. So our core focus here is stress testing our proprietary system with peers. So sounds scary. It's just we're getting our fellow purple belt students to work with us and test our custom GPT. The real test is if someone else can replicate your results with your custom GPT. Now, if you've got a team and you work with them, you can do this with the team, or you can do it with others in the dojo. Again, just to be clear, there will be variance of results because you can't replicate your custom GPT 100% because it's built based on your chat GPT, which has some of your biases and stuff built in, but you can get really close. So we're looking for, does it go the sort of the general direction? Does it hallucinate? And this is where a lot of beginners come in. They don't tighten up the parameters enough. The system isn't clear enough. So somebody new to it can go on tangents and effectively get results that the tool wasn't intended to get. So for insight, a proprietary tool is only valuable if it can be used by others in your domain of expertise. So the ultimate stress test is peer adoption. And I'll let you know, just from a confidence level, early days, I built custom GPTs that were short of magic for me. They created amazing results because they were built the way I think. Other people would test them and not get the same results. So what we want is to help people understand our process and give them checklists and guides. So honestly, this is also about training others on how to use it. And this is where we get into clarity. We're going to do what we call the documentation challenge. You're going to create short, simple user guides for your custom GPT that details its purpose, what data it needs as inputs, and what the user can expect as the final output. And by the way, part of the test is we get our custom GPT to create this user guide. So we're not becoming experts at creating user guides. Our custom GPTs should understand their process well enough that they can actually create the training materials for us. And as always, you're the adult in the conversation, so you need to make sure that the training matches what you would expect. And you need to edit it and finalize it so that somebody else can follow it. And by the way, this is fun in the dojo because we're challenging each other. And this is really where the iron sharpens iron. You start to see it in play because the questions we have, the variance we have, this is where we start to see big growth in our skill set. And so finally in growth, we're going to do what we call the confident share. And you're going to share a link to your custom GPT and its user guide with our Purple Belt community. And you will successfully receive at least 3 pieces of constructive feedback on its usability and output quality. So basically, the idea is that our peers will help guide us to make our tools better. And welcome to the final badge, the attitude badge. This is where you're going to refine and continue that trend of respect and consistency. So you're going to respect yourself, you're going to respect your community, and you're going to respect your newly created custom GPTs. And for the record, I don't really genuinely have a preference as to what your first custom GPT should be. However, I usually recommend it as something that is repetitive, monotonous, and occurs frequently. So, in a perfect world, I would pick something that takes at least an hour of your life every day. Maybe, yeah, let's aim for that as an ideal. Something you spend at least an hour a day on, because if you can take that hour and compress it into 10 minutes, that is a really powerful goal, and it will give you a lot of momentum. So if you pick the right things, consistency becomes a given. So our core focus here is establishing that unbreakable rhythm of high quality on brand output. And again, get really good at one thing. Once that one thing is mastered, then move on to the next and the next. So insight, ownership drives consistency. By building your own tool, you have a higher degree of respect for its maintenance and a greater commitment to its regular use. Now, I'm at the point, if I do something once manually, I look ahead and say, will I ever have to do this again? If yes, I will build a custom GPT so that I can do it better and better and better. So one of the things I use custom GPTs to save me time in my day, I use some of that time to build more tools to help me save more time. So at this point, you're looking for 1% incremental improvement. My goal is to always be striving to improve. So every day I want to be 1% better than I was the day before. So for clarity, we will help you define your system maintenance ritual. You might want to establish maybe a weekly time slot, 30 minutes every Friday, dedicated solely to auditing your custom GPTs, their performance, and checking for version drift or necessary updates. Now, one thing people will say, oh, what's the point when ChatGPT announces an update, my GPTs won't work? I beg to differ. Honestly, I've been from, I think, version 3 to 4.0 with steps in between, and then the big announcement, version 5. A lot of people said version 5, ChatGPT 5, broke a lot of their systems. I literally had a couple of minor tweaks and I was up and running. So one of the things I do is I'm always updating, and I have a spreadsheet and I have a version control list and I have updated dates. Some of my GPTs require updating. If you've got some SOPs or you've got processes that are highly dependent on changing standards, then you're going to change them frequently. If you've got things that are long-term stable standards, you're just testing and making sure it still sounds like you. So maintenance is relative to the volatility of the SOP itself, not as much about the volatility of custom GPTs. So for growth, I'm going to encourage you over a 60-day period. And again, this is a suggestion, not a requirement, but you should have by now at least one custom GPT that is 100% embedded in your workflow, and it's helping you create or accomplish your primary high leverage task over 60 days. And you're going to log the output quality score against your 5-point quality assurance checklist, and you're going to want to perform weekly maintenance. So that is the purple belt. And just to recap, we've taken the systems that we've built in green and blue, and we've identified that one thing that drives us crazy, takes up our time, and we're going to find ways to build a custom GPT around it. So we do have in our in-person course, we do have a detailed demonstration of how to build a custom GPT. This is just the theory behind it and why a custom GPT can help you. So stick around, and I will also have a separate course where we answer the 10 most frequently asked questions in this area. And of course, if you're getting value out of this content, we publish the theory and the frequently asked questions. We publish this widely and freely. Sometimes it'll be on YouTube, sometimes it'll be on on LinkedIn. I don't guarantee that's going to stay out there like that. But if you join the Digital Dojo, we actually take these theoretical concepts and we implement and we practice. So you can visit pharosbusiness.com/digital-dojo. Thank you.